afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another episode of the Disney Plus Project. So we sat down and watched Howard today. It is a brand new documentary on Disney Plus that they did about Howard Ashman. And Howard Ashman, for those of you who don't know, it was a lyricist and songwriter for Disney around the late 80s into the early 90s, I believe, is when his tenure was.
The Disney Renaissance.
Right into the Disney Renaissance. It was Howard Ashman, Alan Menken, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, really, that were the ones that kind of instigated the Disney Renaissance. So, and I'll kind of talk about a little bit why that happened later. But before we get into that, make sure if you are not subscribed to the channel, you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure and leave us a like and a comment and let us know what Disney Plus show we should watch next, or movie, or whatever.
Okay.
So, because next week we are doing The Color of Friendship, so
we need something after that.
we need to do some stuff after that. So, all right, what were your first thoughts after watching Howard?
Well, I always like Disney documentaries and things based around Disney.
Yeah, just like even just movies like Saving Mr. Banks. That was kind of a pseudo-fictional historical Disney thing. It was that was really good.
Yeah, but I like all of the One Day at Disney and
the Imagineering story. Yeah, we love that one.
So, I was immediately attracted to it, and
right?
Interested, and
yeah, you didn't know it existed until I told you about it, and then you were.
Well, yeah, because I don't get to browse.
Well, no, I don't even remember where I had actually heard about it.
It was on the home screen for a while, but I feel
like the first when I heard about it first was actually on one of the podcasts. I think they talked about it because I listen to more of the Disney podcasts than you do, or different ones anyway.
And you listen to a lot more than I do currently.
Yeah, and so I think that's where I heard about it first.
Yeah, that's possible.
And then I came across it on Disney Plus one day. And I was like, oh yeah, there's this thing. And then you were like, yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah,
so
I'm up for it.
Their documentaries are always really good. It was really well done. There's really no actual footage in it. Really, there's a few things that are actual footage of recordings. It's a lot of photos.
And that's just a product of the time.
Yeah,
you didn't see a lot of home video type stuff, and not a lot of videos of the process at the time. But it was mostly
photos. Was what they did, was photo documenting.
Right, but a lot of what you're seeing video wise is interviews and things like that.
Yes, yeah.
So you're still seeing him and his actual conversation, his speech.
Yeah, a couple of interviews, yeah.
And so that's kind of nice. And even some of the times that you're not seeing a video of the interview, you're still getting voiceovers from people. And there was one from Roy Disney and
from Roy E. Disney. No, not Roy E. Disney. It was Roy O. Disney. Yeah.
So so there's a lot of really good commentary and things like that.
I thought it was really well done. It was really beautifully put together. And you can really hear, especially when you can tell that it's people talking about Howard Ashman after his death. You can tell, you can hear the passion that they had for him, and what kind of feeling he inspired in everybody that worked with him. Because he, everybody talked about, especially Alan Menken, who worked really closely with him for a long time. He talked about what it was like to work with him, and I was like, it sounds like an amazing, creative. He said, what did he say? He said when the two of us were in the room, it was pure creative energy. The whole time they were in the room. And I was like, that would be really cool to see. They did a good job of covering his life, and
something that I really appreciate, just because you don't see a lot of good factual talk about it, and then you don't really see what it was really like in the early days of the discovery of AIDS. I really appreciate how they covered it, and that they really said this is what he was doing every single day. This is really how it affected him. Because now when we think about HIV and AIDS, it's pretty treatable. Yeah. As long as you are aware that you have it, it's very treatable.
Yeah, it's treatable now. We've figured out how to treat it, not how to cure it yet, but how to treat it. So at least you can have a better life.
But they don't talk about how, like, you know, Howard Ashman, like, he was like, I didn't want people to know I was gay because I wouldn't have been able to work on a kids movie.
Yeah.
Because
that's what he told. I remember who he was talking to. He said, "I'm a gay man working on a children's film." Yes, yeah. It was Alan Menken or one of the other producers that he told.
But it's like that was a really big thing in the olden days. There was a really big thing
back when I was a baby.
Is that gays were presumed to be pedophiles, and so like it was,
or just dirty in general.
Yeah, and so you know you couldn't admit that you were gay because that meant that that
would essentially put a target on your back.
Yeah, and then he also talked about how like if he got tested for AIDS and had AIDS, he would lose his insurance, and that's insane to think about. Like
that used to be a thing.
You've developed a deadly disease. And your insurance is going to drop you for it. That's the whole point of insurance.
Yeah.
But that was that was a thing that they had to face. And I just don't think that a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
And it's a good look at, like, somebody who's famous and is well known. And it's a little eye-opening to people who aren't quite aware of that situation, just because it kind of brings it into a new light. Versus just like, oh, this is the gay stuff. And now it's like, no, this is somebody who was vital to Disney Renaissance.
Yep.
And this really affected him.
Yeah, because him and Alan Menken and Jeffrey Katzenberg really were the ones that drove the Disney Renaissance. Without Howard Ashman's brilliant song and Alan Menken's brilliant songwriting, and especially Howard Ashman's ability to use the music and to use the lyrics to actually drive the story forward, rather than just being a random, all right, let's stop and have a song and then continue the story.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the driving factors. And then, of course, you had Jeffrey Katzenberg. I was just talking to Anna about this a little bit ago. Is you then had Jeffrey Katzenberg, who, at one point, one of the people in the movie was talking about how they had were pulled into somebody's office, and they said, well, Jeffrey pulled me aside, and he said he hates it, and he hates it. And then they went to Jeffrey Katzenberg. A couple of them went to Jeffrey Katzenberg, and they were like, well, what did you think? And he was like, well, it didn't work. But Jeffrey Katzenberg was very good at about that. He would not be like, oh, well, this is okay, we can work with this. And no, if he knew it wasn't going to work, he would just tell you, this isn't it. This isn't going to work. Nope. Do it again. And that's one of the driving. That's why Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Little Mermaid, those Disney Renaissance movies, were so good, is because Jeffrey Katzenberg demanded perfection, and so did Howard Ashman. They both demanded perfection.
You know, Howard Ashman was very set, and he was like, no, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
You can't, it's going to happen. This is exactly how it's going to be. And he was just so freaking creative and brilliant in his creativity.
Yeah.
And that he, just knew what to do.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of astounding. Like, I sit here and try to plan something out, and I have to erase it a million times and start over 20 million. And he could just he was just like, there's going to be a song right here.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a song right here that tells you this.
Yeah.
Just off of a short little excerpt of that scene. It's crazy to say that.
And then to see how Aladdin kind of first came about, the idea of Aladdin, because he had Howard Ashman had played Aladdin himself on stage when he was a kid, and so he decided he wanted to do that as an animated feature, and so he came in with a fully prepared 30-page workup, and it wasn't just like, oh, there'll be a song here and there'll be a song here. He and Alan Menken had already sat down and written all of the songs. And actually, some of those songs, I don't know if you know this, but some of those songs, because I kind of caught a glimpse of some of the song titles that were on there, and some of those songs, while they weren't in the movie, got put into the Broadway version.
Which I knew.
Proud of Your Boy, which I already had told you about, and then High Adventure. That one was in there. It was just really... It was really interesting to watch that movie and just get to see that kind of a look into Howard Ashman's life, like somebody who was that integral to Disney becoming, again, what the kind of animated and just feature film juggernaut that it was before. To to watch that renaissance happen and pull them out of the kind of dark ages that they were in with movies like the Aristocats and what was it, the Black Cauldron and movies like that. I mean, that would talk about a dark ages. That was a very dark movie. Great Mouse Detective was also in that era when it was just like they were stuck doing the exact same thing because it had worked before. And then Walt died, and so all that innovation went away. Walt was the one pushing everything forward. He's like, no, find new ways to do this. Do that, you know. He was one searching out, you know, like computer animation. He would have been the first one to be like, yes, let's do that. He would have been the first one.
Yeah.
But then he died in 66, before Jungle Book released, and all of that innovation just kind of went. And then to see that start to come back with Howard Ashman, Alan Menken, and Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yeah. And you know what I think, like, kind of think about after watching that is, what if Howard Ashman had been part of Disney before the end of his life? Because he was at the end of his life.
Yeah, it was like, I'm pretty sure he was only at Disney for like 6 years before he died or something like that.
So he was really like very tail end of his life when he got hooked up with Disney.
Like if they had still done movies like Great Mouse Detective and Aristocats, and like how much better would all those movies have been if they had already, if Howard Ashman and Alan Menken had already been there.
Yeah.
Dang it, Ellie. But yeah, no, that's something I kind of thought about too, is like what would Disney have looked like?
What would Howard Ashman's career look like? And like, he had a great career, don't get me wrong, but like, what if he had hooked up with Disney so much sooner in his career?
Yeah.
Like like right after Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Like, what if he had hooked up with Disney right after that? Like, that could have completely changed the trajectory that Disney was on.
Yep.
And
Howard Ashman.
Yeah. It could have completely changed his career.
Yeah, because then he wouldn't have had, you know, the Smile musical that tanked after that. And I think the Kurt Vonnegut one that tanked.
I think that was before.
Or was that before?
That was before. That was before Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Like, it completely could have changed everything if they had caught him just a few years earlier. Even.
Yeah, that's all it would have taken. So. But he came in. Yeah, it was like 88 or something like that.
Yeah, it could have changed everything.
Yeah, it could have. But, so yeah, no, that was a really amazing documentary. I'm definitely going to end up watching that again at some point, because that was so well done. And it actually pulled up like a suggested list afterwards, and it was showing like the Waking Sleeping Beauty, which I've been meaning to watch for a while, and then there was another one that pulled up. Saving Mr. Banks, obviously, it pulled up, but there was another one. What was it called? It wasn't called The Brothers. It was about the Sherman Brothers, the boys. The boys. About the Sherman Brothers, and like watching this one makes me want to go back and watch it, because I've never watched them.
Yeah.
Because of how well this one was done, I want to watch those other ones. You know, that, and I'm so interested in Disney history. You know, having read Disney War, and I have, you know, some other, you know, kind of Disney stuff that I've been reading, and so it's just, you know, fascinating to me.
But it's definitely one that I would recommend. Like, if you're even like pseudo interested in Disney and Disney animation, it's definitely one to watch.
If you're interested in Disney movies, especially Disney animated movies at all, watch this. Yeah.
It's a good insight on like some of the biggest names in Disney.
It's an insight on like essentially how Disney does things now, like why Disney is so good at animated features, because this kind of set the groundwork for that.
Yeah, they kind of changed.
And so they use this for the model, and it's like, why are the movies from the Renaissance so much better than even the movies that are coming out now, like, you know, Frozen and all that? And really, it comes down to Howard Ashman.
Yeah, it's that totally different creative process.
Yep.
They're just, not to say that people aren't creative now and they're not and then they're not good at their jobs.
Yeah,
but
they
like,
are.
Howard Ashman was a true creative talent.
Yep. And they even said, at the very end of the movie, or towards the very end of the movie, I don't remember which one it was, they even said, I think it was one of the former producers or something, that he kept looking for someone like Howard, because he was like, that can't be the only person, so he kept watching for someone to come along who was like Howard, who had that same creativity, that same drive, that same, you know, everything, and he still has never seen it. And I'm not surprised.
and I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah.
I think that, like, you could even, it was even in the beginning that they were saying, like, people who wanted to do this stuff as a career were completely smashed out because it was so difficult to get into. And I feel like that's even now. There's so many creative people out there, but you're told that a job in the arts will get you nowhere.
Yep.
So
told that your whole life.
So instead they become lawyers and doctors, and it's not truly what they're passionate for. It's not what they really want to do with their lives.
Yeah.
And all that creativity goes to the wayside. And I think that's exactly what's happening. And I think if we invested a little more in people who are truly creative and truly passionate about their creativity, that we could change a lot of that.
Yes. So, but yeah, so that's our thoughts on Howard. Like I said, it's really, really good, and we recommend that for anybody to watch. Anybody who's interested in Disney, or anybody who's ever seen, you know, any Disney movies or anything like that. It is a really, really good watch. So, like I said, next week we will be doing The Color of Friendship from a Disney Channel original, right?
It is legit, yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you all for joining us this week. And until next week, don't forget to thank the Phoenicians.